I welcome you to our Government and Heritage Library, which I think all of you know is a part of our wonderful State Library of North Carolina. And this year, our State Library is celebrating its 200th anniversary. Isn't that fabulous? Happy birthday, library. We all know, the folks here know, that libraries are so vital and important in the health and vitality of each and every community throughout North Carolina, no matter where they're located, no matter what size community is. You go into any library and you witness knowledge that is encompassing arts and culture, invention and science and heritage. It's absolutely education in action. And you see it as you travel and you visit our libraries, as do I. When we talk about education for the Department of Cultural Resources, I want you to know that it's absolutely core to our mission. Every day, in so many ways, we are engaged in and concerned with education in our state. And in fact, the education and outreach programs of the Department of Cultural Resources are among the largest in the country. We're very proud of that. We see that as a key mission for us, and we take that responsibility very seriously. In today's world, new drivers of technology are at work in our greater community and also right here in cultural resources. We know that information is vital for the North Carolina of tomorrow. And we're so excited about this new addition to NCPedia, which is our free online encyclopedia. And I've received, I have to say, over time, so many emails or people stopping me to tell me, or at cocktail parties, to talk about NCPedia and the wonderful things that are available to them and their use of it. It's wonderful. Our friends at UNC Press are partnering with us to provide an additional 24,000 articles, 24,000 articles from 2 landmark works that are in their catalog. And I have to note that this is the 90th anniversary of UNC Press, and we're very proud of that as well. The State Library has already received the digital files of the Encyclopedia of North Carolina and the Dictionary of North Carolina Biography. Both of these were edited by William Powell, who's Professor Emeritus of History at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and an incredible long-term friend of the Department of Cultural Resources, and specifically our Division of Archives and History. And I'm delighted to have Virginia Powell here with us today. Virginia, thank you for coming. We send our love to Bill. Please tell him that we love him, and we're grateful for you for being here today. The Department of Cultural Resources is committed to digitization. It's not an option. It's something that's being done every single day, and we can't catch up with it. We're just trying to gallop along as fast as we possibly can. And this very exciting partnership with UNC Press is one of those great leaps forward to us as we continue to record and interpret North Carolina's rich history and culture. It's through our state library and our state archives that our department has made this real focus on digitization, because it in fact allows the greater access to information and resources for all of our citizens. And for instance, we find that with NCPedia, one of the things it does is really to help connect to a broad range of users. It's students and teachers, journalists, it's business and civic organizations, it's cultural groups, it's decision makers. This access is vital as we look ahead to the future. I'm very proud that Michelle Chakowski and her team have begun this process of integrating all the content that we're talking about and making it available online. I want to thank Michelle and her folks, what they've done to make NCPedia such a valuable resource for us already. But more importantly, perhaps, what they're going to be doing over the next 3 years as she and her team continue to fold in this additional material from the press. This is a big day for the State Library, because in addition to this great announcement that we're talking about, I have the opportunity to officially make another announcement, and that is to introduce our new State Librarian, Cal Shepard. Cal's been on the job exactly 1 week today. Woo! I saw Cal this morning. We were talking a little bit, and I'd been reminded that it has been 1 week, and I said to her, "You sure it hasn't been 3 months?" But I've already warned her that every week is probably going to feel like that. Lots of great things going on, lots of activities. For those of you who don't already know Cal, and many of you do, she received her bachelor's degree from the University of Colorado, and then she saw the light, and then she got her master's in library science from UNC Chapel Hill. Her professional career as a librarian has taken her from Western North Carolina to Winston-Salem, to Raleigh, to Atlanta, and again, back to Raleigh. So you know what we see as a pattern here. She worked with the State Library back in the 1990s, first as a youth services consultant and then as the chief of library development, and then moved to Atlanta in 1999 and worked in developing and implementing strategic and operational plans for libraries really across the country. In her work with Solinet. And then in 2006, she became the Director of Consulting Services, and during that time, she managed projects in the areas of strategic planning, staff development, LSTA plan evaluation. And along the way of doing those things, not only with her colleagues here in North Carolina, but actually around the country, she's really garnered a national reputation for providing facilitation for statewide initiatives for state libraries. So as I think you can see that she's exactly what we need right here in North Carolina today as we begin the next 200 years. Cal, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be the state librarian, and I want to take a moment today to thank Mary Boone, who was my predecessor in this position, for all of her great work, because it was under her tenure that this NCPedia idea really came to life. I have met with many of the staff here at the State Library already, and I can just tell you I'm very excited to see what kind of really exciting things we can all do together. So stay tuned is what I would say. As Secretary Carlisle mentioned, the State Library turns 200 years old this year. If you take a walk over to the state capitol, you will see an early version of the State Library. It was located in one room in the capitol. It soon outgrew that small, cramped space and began spilling over into other offices, the staircase, the closets. So in 1888, and then again in 1913, the State Library moved to ever-expanding quarters. We moved into our current home here in the Cultural Resources Building in 1969.
It was a temporary relocation.
We're still here. Throughout its history, the State Library has grown from a special collection of law and reference books specifically for state officials to an assortment of titles in both digital and print formats on a range of topics including government, genealogy, science, historical reference, you name it, all available to a wider public. The State Library serves the people of North Carolina in many ways, including contributing to the development of NCPedia. I'd like to now introduce Mark Simpson-Vos, the editorial director of UNC Press, and he's going to tell you more about the wonderful content that's coming up in NCPedia.
Well, let me begin with thanks to you, Secretary Carlisle, and to you, Cal, for welcoming us all here today. I want to just briefly introduce my colleague at UNC Press, Jay Mazaki, who is here. Jay is with us not just as a colleague from the press, but as the associate editor for the Encyclopedia of North Carolina, and someone who worked very closely with Bill Powell over the years to bring that project to completion. So I'm very happy that he's with us. I also want to just briefly acknowledge Cal's predecessor, Mary Boone, and the many members of the State Library staff that I have had the opportunity to meet and work with over the last year as we have envisioned this project together. But this really is a moment for celebration, and it couldn't be more fitting that we're celebrating in a library. Yes, we can have celebrations in a library. Because the news we're announcing today really represents the best of what authors, publishers, and libraries can do when they work together, not just through the routine transactions of the book publishing business, but as collaborators for the public good. It also represents the culmination of work by an author who was himself a passionate librarian. This year, as Secretary Carlisle mentioned, UNC Press celebrates 90 years of publishing books that inform, enlighten, and entertain readers, both scholars and general readers. Since the press's founding in 1922, we have had as a special part of our mission publishing books that are dedicated to understanding the life of North Carolina and the region, whether through works of history or through a series of Southern Gateways guidebooks to the outdoors and nature. We have long emphasized developments of books that are for readers who need reliable information about this place. For nearly half of the press's existence, books written by William Powell have been an important part of our publishing program. He's also been a vital part of the state library and cultural resources community, with a lengthy career that began as a research historian here in the state archives before he came to UNC Chapel Hill and its North Carolina collection. Bill's life's work has been as a librarian, as a curator, and as a teacher of North Carolina history. Generations of North Carolinians, including many of us in this room today, have learned under Bill's tutelage, whether in a class that he taught himself or through one of his many textbooks, like the classic North Carolina Through 4 Centuries. But Bill's crowning achievement was a set of reference works published by UNC Press. 6 volumes of the Dictionary of North Carolina Biography gather together more than 20,000 biographical articles about leading figures from the state's history. And the Encyclopedia of North Carolina, published in 2006, brings together an additional 2,000 or more entries and some 350 illustrations in an authoritative, comprehensive reference to our state's history and culture. Today, we're delighted to announce that UNC Press, under license to the State Library, will be making these works available freely online through the State Library's NCPedia project. The result will be an online encyclopedia of North Carolina that will quickly become the largest and the most comprehensive resource for any single state in the country. I looked it up. We're going to beat Texas. This moment really marks the culmination of some 3 decades of work by Bill Powell and by UNC Press to gather, write, organize, edit, and publish these reference works. Our goal throughout that time was to ensure that people of this state would have the finest, most reliable information about the events and stories and insights and personalities that make North Carolina what it is today. I was fortunate to work closely with Bill Powell over the final 8 years of the process of creating the Encyclopedia of North Carolina. And during that time, we worked together, especially in the final years, when difficult decisions were being made about which articles could be included in a single volume that we had agreed upon. I had the unpleasant job of trying to convince the Dean of North Carolina history what could and could not be included in that volume. While the technology, when those decisions were being made, I remember telling Bill that it was going to be okay, because one day we were going to find a way to move all of this material into an online environment where it could expand and live and breathe into the future. And I know that that was extremely exciting and comforting to Bill. And while technology was not necessarily his concern, I know how much affection he felt for every single word written by his contributors and every single fact he had discovered, no matter how small or large. So now I'm delighted to say that this day has finally come. And thanks to the work of Michelle Schakowsky and her colleagues here at the State Library, we're able to realize the vision that Bill Powell began more than 40 years ago. I'm sorry that Bill can't be here today, but I am delighted that Virginia Powell, his longtime wife and partner and in-house editor and indexer, is with us. And I also want to just take a moment to offer special acknowledgement to our friends and colleagues at the UNC Chapel Hill Libraries, who are our partners in producing the Encyclopedia of North Carolina. I also want to thank and acknowledge Jeff Crow, who's here today. Jeff was my partner in keeping visions for an online encyclopedia alive through many permutations, attempts to secure funding, and so it's great to be here together today to say we have finally done it. We're here representing not just Bill Powell, but literally hundreds of volunteer contributors all over the state who worked with him over many years on this project. And so all of us, including my colleagues at UNC Press, want to say bravo and best wishes to the State Library as you now work to integrate this material into the NCPedia project. And finally, to students, young and old, who are seeking the information about North Carolina that they need, I have a simple statement. Skip Wikipedia. We have everything you need right here. Thank you.